everyone, and welcome to the Alchemy Podcast. My name is Luca Malagudi, and I'm going to be the host for these episodes. I'm a professional freediver, an instructor, and Spiro, and part of the Alchemy team. And the goal of the Alchemy Podcast is to travel the world and meet with some of the top freedivers, coaches, trainers, athletes, and just some of the raddest human beings out there. And sit down one-on-one, have a beer, and talk about things that most people don't want to talk about. For our first episode, we are so proud to announce that we're going to be talking with none other than Harry Chammas. Harry is a professional freediver, one of the best coaches and trainers out there, a UK national record holder, a specialist in many disciplines like no limits, variable weight, a guru in mouthfill, deep relaxation, and he runs his own company called Freedive Passion out of Dahab, Egypt. Stay tuned, we have a very interesting episode coming up with our awesome guest, Harry Chammas. Harry, why the fuck go deep? What is it with this narcosis that is alluring you to the depth? Because you go deep and you enjoy it, and you like going down in no limits and variable weight, and you've crushed those disciplines.
I mean, the thing that's kept me going deeper, it's a lot of the main reasons has changed over the years, but I think it's like always being about a level of self-control that you need. Because to even freedive in the first place, from the first time you go down until now, there's a lot of natural instincts which says, this is wrong, don't do this.
Yeah.
You know, and your natural instincts to go as fast as you can, like race down, panic, adrenaline mode, fight mode. Like in the beginning, this is like super obvious when you see a beginner diver doing this. And then the better you get, you kind of like, you'll get to a point where nobody could see it, but maybe on some level you feel it to some percentage. And then as you get better and better, that percentage is going to get smaller and smaller and smaller. So you're like learning, first you learn to control yourself in the way that you do the right thing, even if you're not feeling the right thing, like faking it till you make it sort of thing.
Absolutely. Yeah,
and then you'll do the right thing and feel the right way until a point. But then always, when you're doing PBs, when you're pushing those limits, there's going to be a level of stress. And I'm not saying everybody that goes deep is shit in the pants, but they do need to handle this stress. There needs to be some sort of stress management.
Okay.
Right?
Because the brain knows. The brain knows before you know.
Subconscious knows. Subconscious just wants you to stay alive.
Yes.
You know?
I think it was Gary. Yeah.
Stay alive, have babies, you know.
Stay alive, have babies, reproduce.
Reproduce.
Your
Die
subconscious
old,
wants to
happy,
keep
and
you
fat.
alive. It's beyond your control.
Yeah. So it's like developing ourselves physically to use the technique right, use the right power, right speed, equalize, but then also mentally to stay in the right state of mind.
Yeah.
And train in a way where it's possible for you to stay in the right state of mind. So just the depth alone already requires a high level of control. And then if you're having to do this thing while under the influence of narcosis, then it's just a more extreme level of control that you need, right? It's just that extra little thing that you get once you start going really deep. But, you know, you've spent the whole time learning how to control your mind, learning how to control the body, not letting external things affect what you do or how you feel. And then you just, once you start going deep enough, you just get this extra thing, boom. How do you handle that, you know?
Right. How do you, I think it was Gary McGrath that told me it takes 1/500th of a second for your brain to detect that stress. Mm-hmm. And that is something you cannot even have access to. You're so completely subconscious. Like, how do you override that? How do you deal with that instinctive stress that's, you can't even identify it, but maybe it's there?
I think the key is for it to create the situation where it doesn't happen in the first place. So yeah, it's genetically in us. It's like evolution that we switch from parasympathetic to sympathetic in just a moment, right? If you imagine
Yes.
you're in the cave, you're eating your woolly mammoth or whatever, then all of a sudden some like dangerous animal, pack of wolves or something turn up, you can't like slowly switch into this fight or flight mode. It needs to happen in an instant. Yeah. And the same thing can happen in a dive. You could have done the best breathe up ever,
Rest
first
and
20
digest.
meters,
Yeah.
perfect, even to 30, perfect. Then something might happen and then boom. But why did that happen? Why did you lose your relaxation? Why did you go from parasympathetic to sympathetic? Well, because you had this feeling that you couldn't handle the situation you were in. You were faced with something that you didn't know how to deal with. And then boom, you lose it. But if you're asking yourself to do something that you know you can do, anything that could happen, you've already mentally prepared yourself for, then there's nothing that can like make you lose your relaxation, that can wake you up out of this flow state. And this comes with like experience and training and being very wholesome with like how you approach your diving in the first place.
Yeah.
Not just training to always do everything perfect, but training to also handle problems that come up.
Visualizing the problems beforehand.
Yeah, potentially, yeah.
The famous Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius, one of the famous emperors of Rome, he used to have the premeditatum, the premeditation, where he would premeditate the worst possible outcomes.
Yeah.
Someone stabbing him behind the back, literally. A poor conversation with a senator, or death.
Yeah.
Premeditate death.
Prepare yourself for the worst, and then nothing can surprise you. You know, nothing's that bad if you've already imagined the worst possible situations happening, and knowing that you can still deal with that. Then anything that pops up, it's already in your realms of control. You can't just hope that everything's gonna go perfect, and not prepare for it if it doesn't. You know, because if everything goes to shit, and you're at 140 meters, you're dead.
Yeah, basically.
You know,
there's
people die on the sled. You know.
Yes. Oh yeah. Stavros recently.
Well, he didn't die, but
he was close.
Yeah. Could have. But yeah, people have.
Same accident
died on the
Dahab.
sled.
Same accident Dahab. Wouldn't have made it, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, we don't do that deep sled here, but I think if it was in Sham, he would have been all right.
Yeah.
You know, like sled's no joke, and I'll only do sled with Andrea or Stavros. It's like nowhere else in the world, unless I set up my own thing somewhere else, and I knew I'd have my perfect safety team, proper counterballast, everything good. There's basically no one else that I trust to go deep.
Yeah, it's two of the best in the world, Andrea and Stavros.
Yeah, like there's nobody more experienced than Andrea. Andrea reckons he's done more than 100 plus meter dives on the sled. You know, he's been developing that sled and like fine tuning it for years and years and years, and he's took it super deep himself. He's made mistakes and learned from these mistakes, so I don't have to. You know,
exactly.
I can just go there and be like, okay, let's just do this thing.
Good to go.
Like to do 140. What was it? First day I did 100. Next day 120. Not next day, but next dive day 120. Next dive day 130. Then 140. It was like 4 dive sessions to get to that depth.
That's wild.
Yeah. It's like some people think of No Limits as being like easy. Like, oh yeah, you don't have to do anything, you just got to equalize. Well, yeah, you do just have to equalize, but then you also have to equalize perfectly, do everything right, like while you're getting dragged down by your feet, like 2 meters a second.
Psychological effect that has, absolutely.
Yeah, you know you're going.
Don't let that get to your head.
140, you know you're going super deep, or however deep it is that you're going. Normally, if you're doing No Limits, it's going to be deeper than what you've ever been before, like, by definition.
Yeah.
So it's very, very, very much about just keeping your shit together and just doing everything right. Not panicking.
Yeah.
Because of course you can't panic, but also doing everything perfectly when it comes to equalization and charging, not feeling rushed or overwhelmed by the fact that this super strange thing is happening.
Right.
It's not like a free fall where you just ease into it and it's like this smooth, super relaxing thing. No, you're getting dragged down by your feet. It's like aggressive, you know? And somehow while you're getting dragged down, you got to find a way to still be relaxed and still be focused and be okay with the pressure, the darkness, the narcosis.
And not letting the autonomous nervous system switch from the most natural mechanism of parasympathetic nervous system, rest and digest, to sympathetic, fight or flight. Because like if you're being dragged down, like how is your brain not immediately going to fight or flight? If someone pushes you off of the edge of the sidewalk, your brain triggers the flight or flight. It's that simple, right? That's what vertigo is. It's in part has to do with that. Like, oh, what's going on? There's a change in balance.
Yeah.
Of course, it's crazy.
It's like you've got to trick your brain, right? Do you see what you're doing as a scary thing? Like if you break it down to the pure like core of it, do you think what you're doing is scary? Do you think what you're doing is dangerous?
Yeah.
If you know it's something that you can handle, then it's not scary, it's not dangerous. Shouldn't be the chance for this switch into fight or flight, you know? You're just doing what you got to do. You know you can handle it.
Yeah.
No big deal. Just go, do it, come back up. But for sure, it's like only certain minds that can like do this. You know, if you're like overly neurotic or something like that, you just can't shut off. You know, like.
Say that one more time. Certain minds that can do this.
Yeah.
So are you maybe alluding to, for example, Alex Honnold, one of the best climbers in the world, climbed free solo. They did scans on him and they realized this guy can have such a high risk tolerance, not just out of experience and nature, nurture, but also because there are biochemical things missing in his brain. He's missing certain things.
Yeah.
So do you think that applies too?
Definitely.
It definitely does.
Yeah.
You can.
I've had a similar conversation with Andrea Sicari, and his theory is like pretty funny. It's like the only people that can go deep, you know, quickly. You see them like progress from like 20 to like 80 in a couple of months. It's like if you've got to be crazy or mad. No, sorry. If you've got to be crazy or stupid.
Crazy or stupid. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and
it's so counterintuitive to your survival mechanisms.
Yeah, you've got to have like a very weak survival instinct, I think.
You have to have a weak survival instinct.
Yeah, I think so.
You have to truly not. Yeah, you're overriding everything that has put you. I mean, you were mentioning before we were in the caves. Right, we were in the caves, we just hunted, right? There's the rest and digest and sex, rest and digest and reproduce, right? Parasympathetic. So we're in the caves, we just ate, we're resting, we had sex. That was basically evolution over and over, millions, billions of iterations. And then all of a sudden there's something, a saber-toothed tiger or another village that's approaching and attacking us, and we switch into the fight or flight mechanism. And it's done just in a fraction of a second. And for example, one thing that fascinates me about that is the evolution of the eye. The fact that we have the receptors and the cones of vision on the outside of the eye, the peripherals, that can detect motion much, much faster than in the center of the eye, which has way more concentration of these to get data, essentially, input. The peripherals. So what training techniques can you use to essentially basically what I'm saying is if your senses, for example, like your eyes, have a connection with the change in autonomous nervous system, what techniques of training can you use to literally numb the senses? You have to in a certain way. It's the senses that produce these survival mechanisms and instincts, no?
I wouldn't say so. I'd say it's more like your reactions. For me, that's the direction that I like to take it.
Okay.
Rather than trying to like, you know, trick my brain somehow with like maybe, I don't know what you're trying to get at with sight. But to go back to the Stoics, like the only thing that you can control in this life is how you react to the things. You can't change what happens to you.
True.
Right? You can only change how you react to that input. Right? This thing that's happened, whatever it is, it doesn't have to make you angry, upset, sad. That's your reaction, yeah? You can take this thing and make whatever you want out of it.
So you're going down on the sled, and in the corner of your eye, you see a barracuda under Andrea's platform. Your reaction to that, that's what you mean, for example.
Yeah.
That's what I was getting to with the eye thing.
When
does that bother you?
Yeah, does it, right?
Does it?
For me, like, I don't know, kind of when I started dive, I don't give a shit about nothing. I'm ready to die.
You're ready to die.
I don't think I'm gonna die. Otherwise, I wouldn't do it.
Yes.
But I've completely given to that dive. I've submitted to that dive. I don't care.
That's fascinating.
It's already happening. Because if you even have that fear in there, if there's something that you're not prepared for, you're never going to be able to fully give into the dive and then just enjoy the dive, enjoy that moment.
Of course.
There's going to be like some tension, some apprehension, something that doesn't want you to keep free falling. You know, you've got to completely submit to it. It's like, I'm doing this dive. I know it's fucking crazy what I'm doing, but it's worth the risk. It's okay to me if I die.
Literally exactly what Alex Honnold would say when he would solo El Capitan. Yeah. I don't want to die. I want to live, but I'm ready if it were to happen, and I can assume the responsibility, which is easy because I'm dead. But that's crazy. So you're really practicing, and you tell yourself, I am ready to die if that is the outcome.
Yeah, I fully accept like the potential absolute maximum consequence of what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And the reward that you get from that is to be able to just enjoy that moment of actually like free falling through the water super fast. You you feel like the kind of turbulence that speed is creating throughout the whole body is kind of like rippling the limbs around if you're completely relaxed, you know, just the feeling of that water flowing over the face, over the body. To just be in that with like zero anxiety, just with it fully, there's nothing like it in the world. There's no other experience that I can compare it to, you know. And to take it even further, to be like, how grateful can we be for that, you know? Like, this is such a special time in the evolution of humanity. Nobody's ever experienced this. Nobody's been diving that deep in like ancient history or anything. It's just us. Like now, because slowly we've kind of realized that we have this potential. You know, it's a free fall for 50 meters or 60 meters, 70 meters, 80 meters, 100 meters even. Yeah. And so like in that moment, I'm just like, wow, this is amazing, you know, like just feeling it. I wouldn't even be saying to myself, this is amazing. I'm just there, you know, and just grateful that I can have this experience now. You know?
Fuck, it's the deepest irony, no pun intended. From the outside, people will look at you and say you are fucking suicidal and what you're doing is stupid. But in those 3-4 minutes, you are willing and ready to assume the consequence of death, which is the ultimate. You are actually living more. In those 3 minutes, you're living more than most people will live in 30 months.
Yeah, it's like the intensity of the experience. And some people crave these intense moments, you know. Like, I think that's the draw for a lot of extreme sports people, you know.
I had thought about this for a while. To truly be comfortable with going deep, you needed to accept and begin imagining your death. And this is something the Stoic philosophers have always talked about, which has really, really been fascinating me recently. Control your perceptions, direct your actions accordingly, surrender to the outcome, the external versus the internal. What was hugely impactful for me was when I realized that what you imagine has the same effect on your body, on your mind, as actually doing something. So imagining an action, and there's several studies on this, the basketball study, the muscle biopsy, study of analyzing muscle movements. The brain does not discern a difference between really imagining something with great detail and actually doing it. I'm just wondering if that maybe is something you apply in your preparation.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this is like the basis of visualization, right? So you
exactly.
I use my visualization.
But do you imagine death? Is where I'm going at.
No.
You don't?
No.
You've never imagined if tomorrow you are critically ill and in pain, how you would want to go? Because going on a sled would be pretty awesome. It's a one-way road, you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, but I've had like quite a few experiences. Like I've done plenty of crazy shit in my time, and I've had quite a few moments where I was like, oh, I'm gonna die, or this could be it, you know. And it's never been a scary thing for me. It's always been like I'm surprised at how much I just accepted it. But I'm being like, okay,
This is it.
Like, no adrenaline, nothing. I'm like, oh, this is it. And dude, I've lived a great life already. I'm only 35, but like, I've done so much, man. Like, things people dream of, and I'm at the point anyway where I'm like, it's okay. It's okay if I go.
Yeah.
I don't want to. I'll do whatever I can to not.
Of course.
But
yeah. But
it's okay.
I like that. And I've thought about that a few times on days when I'm really feeling either physically destroyed or exhausted or somewhat burned out, which is not often, but it's happened. And I think, oh, I have 3 more of this to do. So I'm 32. There's a statistical chance that I'll live to 96 based on genetics and science and medicine.
Yeah.
And to visualize myself having to redo everything I've done another 2 times over makes me be like, whoa, I'm exhausted already of living. And I think that's a good way. It's a good reminder of like, hey, your time is limited. Make the best of it.
Yeah. You won't be going this hard in another 30 years, though. You would have found a way to be a bit more chill, I reckon.
Yeah. Physically, but maybe that's compensated by the mind. You lose certain capacities of the body, you make it up with other capacities of the mind.
Yeah.
Hopefully. Unless we go senile, that'd be interesting. Narcosis. How does narcosis play into that? Do you find yourself addicted to it? Do you find yourself wanting to experience it? And do you find yourself almost, luring you to the depth to be like, I want to feel those things. I want
to. It's not. Narcosis for me. It's never been that extreme. So like my first experience was I did 105 variable. And all that I could say about it was like my vision was like pixelated. So it was just purely visual. It wasn't like anything else. Then I had the same thing at 110, my first 110 no limits, just sort of pixelated vision. And then I did 120 no limits. And then I had it was like an amazing trip. It was kind of like an acid trip, basically.
It was like an acid trip.
Yeah, but obviously very short and intense. The story is, it was in Greece, in Kalamata, and Stavros, he uses a copper pipe to get the air from the tank into the lift bag.
Why a copper pipe?
Because he's worried that a normal high pressure hose would kind of like whip around and come out of the lift bag. Okay. Andreas literally attached the hose to the lift bag, so that's not possible to happen. And that would be potentially what Stavros could do, but he didn't. He had this copper hose. Okay. So I do the dive, I hit the bottom, everything's all good. I don't feel knocked or anything. And then I start to inflate the lift bag, and then I'm kind of like not super lucid. And there's this sound that the air escaping through the tube was making, which was like out of this world, like nothing you could ever hear before. And you know, underwater sound travels different, right? Yes. You can't hear it coming from one place, it comes from everywhere. And it was this sort of like sci-fi, surreal sort of screeching, but screeching is not the word, because that sounds like it wouldn't be nice, but it was this kind of sci-fi screeching coming from everywhere, and then it felt like it was like coming in, it was like inside me, and it felt like I was traveling through like a wormhole through space or something like that. Really? Yeah, like all the way.
So it was the sound that put you on that trip.
Yeah, like triggered like this. This whole trip, and I was still like aware enough to every now and again check on my watch, make sure I got off the sled in time. So then I'm like having this trip all the way up. It's just amazing. I'm just like loving life. Then I see him at 40 and get off the sled, start coming up slowly with the safety diver. And then, finally I surface, I do my protocol. It was a national record attempt. Do my protocol. As soon as I finish the protocol, I'm like, before they give me the card or anything, I'm like, holy shit, that was the best experience of my life. I want to go again. Oh my God, that was so good. And then they give me my white card, whatever. And Stavros is like, you know, you left the that cylinder on like the whole time you were coming up. So like, so once the bag is full, you're supposed to switch the cylinder off.
Oh.
Otherwise, like the sled comes to the surface and there's bubbles flying everywhere, and then it's just like this disaster.
Because the sled's gonna ride up on its own.
Yeah,
right.
And I'd never made the connection that, okay, I was listening to this sound all the way up, having such a good time, but that sound was because I hadn't switched off the tank, you know.
Okay.
So
you're just loving the sound.
Yeah, I was
having
an amazing trip. So like the Narcosis, okay, I really enjoyed it, but I saw that it can affect my decision-making ability.
Yeah.
Then like this year, going deeper again, I don't feel like it was affecting my decision-making abilities. Like I was super focused in the zone, everything was good. Honestly, it just felt like, there's two ways I can describe it. If anyone ever fought or boxed, like there's this feeling when you get punched in the head really hard, where you get this like vibrations all the way down your body.
Yeah.
You know, like this sort of like tingling all the way down. Same thing would happen if you hit your head really hard, I guess. I'd get that. I'd be at the bottom and I was like, the same sort of feeling. Another way to describe it is like if you took a huge hit on a bong, but like as soon as you finish, you have this like very like buzzing, like heavy feeling before you're even high yet. You know, but it's like it's not the feeling of being high, it's the feeling of just taking a hit on a bong.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's what I would feel on the bottom.
Does that have anything to do with ischemia, maybe? You know, a lot of people, when they have sex, they want to incorporate certain choking techniques just before they orgasm because it makes it amazing. It's incredible. Would it be similar, do you think?
I don't think it's that, no. I think it's just like how my body was reacting to the Narcosis.
But on a biochemical level, what do you think is going on when that happened? Especially when you felt like, wow, this is so good. There had to be a flood of serotonin and dopamine, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really know exactly what causes Narcosis, you know?
Yeah. But you know how it feels and you like it.
Yeah, like I said, like I used to just enjoy like getting high as a teenager and in my early 20s, and I'd go to like the bank and try and do normal stuff, or I'd go shopping and like dealing with people, and you know, I used to like just enjoy getting high and trying to like function, you know, so like just putting myself in this kind of like fucked up state of mind and then try and still like force my mind to work like properly in a normal social environment. And then this Narcosis is kind of the same, right? You're like fucked up, but you still need to perform. You're in this situation where you need to make it happen. Kind of the same, like, I think it's similar if you do like an acid trip or mushroom trip or whatever. If you get caught on a thought and you start just following that thought, you get completely lost in it. And it can be like a negative thought, it can be positive thought, but we get lost. And this is how bad trips happen, right?
Yeah.
If you start thinking something negative, and then the mind just fixates on this thing and it gets worse.
Yes, especially with magic mushrooms, psilocybin cubensis.
Yeah.
You can ride the emotional highs, emotional lows, and you can train that. So is it similar? Because I know you told me you've taken mushrooms and you've had these amazing experiences.
Yeah, I think it's the same. It's the same. The mind is going to work in the same way. So if you experience this Narcosis and then you start like worrying about it, then it's going to be a very negative experience. Yeah. If you experience Narcosis and then get lost in the positive thing, like how the feeling of the water or whatever, then it can be like kind of a nice experience, but you'll get distracted and potentially you'll do something wrong, right?
True. Okay,
if you just feel it and you just stay present in the moment and focus on what you need to do, then it's not really going to affect it that much. And that's how I found my deep dive into be this year.
So feel it, but stay present in the moment, focused.
Yeah, I was literally just feeling what it was doing to me physically. It didn't change my decision-making ability.
Very cool. And you've experimented with diving with certain psychedelics?
Yeah, I've done it in the past, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You comfortable talking about this?
Never on a line, never deep diving, but
Okay.
yeah, I've been fun diving on the reef and even spearfishing.
Because I can tell you, without saying any names, but we know who we're speaking about, that there's some 100-meter plus freedivers that are definitely looking into this, some research on this, for a truly medical and beneficial purpose. Psilocybin cubensis, DMT, ayahuasca, dealing with PTSD and other disorders, and how these things can actually help us to deal with it. So in the right environment, the right setting, with the right dosages, it can be very beneficial. And
yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't say you need to freedive even to do it, but I mean, yeah, one of my best experiences of my life was like freediving on mushrooms. It's like it just heightened all of my senses. I had like just my Speedo on, and just the feeling of moving through the water moving over the whole body. And
we can call it freediving on mushrooms with Harry Chammas if you want. You'll get twice as many requests. Wait, what?
Yeah, we can start. Like,
and you can charge twice as much too.
Yeah, but then also at the same, there was 3 of us, and one of the guys was not having a very good time at all. And the 2 of us were in the water, like, man, you gotta come in, this is amazing. And then our third friend came in, it was like, he got out after like less than a minute. He was like, didn't like it at all, you know. And he was a free diver as well, but he just wasn't having a very good time on the trip. It's not something I recommend everybody does, but, you know, as you can probably tell if you've listened to this podcast, I've got a very high level of self-control. So I know I can put myself in certain situations. I've done mushrooms before, I've done psychedelics before. I'm at the point where I like knew I can't fuck up. I'm not the guy that tries to fly out the top story of a building because he's on acid.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to forget that I need to breathe.
Yeah, exactly.
And just free dive forever. It's just a different way to experience this thing in like an altered state.
Altered state, yeah. Do you think that's instinctual, or it just comes from familiarization? That you've done it the right way, and you've experimented with your body the right way, and then you just know how to control. You just know how to, whether you're freediving deep on Narcosis, or whether you're having a nice, chill mushroom trip, connecting with nature, disconnecting from work and laptops.
I think I learned my lessons the hard way.
The hard way?
I had my bad trips.
Yeah.
And I kind of like realized where it came from, and I realized like how to handle it. And it was like this, I spoke about it earlier, this negative thought pattern and the spiral that it can take you on. So I started to, as soon as I started to have these negative thoughts, automatically I would shut it off and then start to think about something good. So I was trying to take myself from a negative sort of path to a positive path. And for quite a long time, that's what I was doing. And then I realized that actually the best possible experience that you could have is to not think about anything. And now normally if I'm on psychedelics, I'll spend some of the time meditating. Okay. Just sitting and maybe doing some pranayama and meditating. And even then, the rest of the time, I'm trying to do like active meditation the whole time. So just staying present in the moment. I'm not getting wrapped up in thought. And it's like a whole nother level of experience. Like there's a very, very tangible reward for like not being in your head the whole time.
Yes.
To just be like here, soaking everything up, connecting to the whole universe, you know, because this is what you experience.
Yeah.
Compared to, you know, just looking at your hand. Oh, this is cool, or listening to some music, whatever. That's cool as well.
Yeah.
But like, it's nothing compared to feeling like you're one with everything, right? Yeah. And you only get that feeling through meditation. For me, anyway.
And meditation underwater, doing a little hang. Being underwater is always meditative. And on land, just sitting down and just...
Yeah, that's what I mean between active and just sitting, so...
That's what I plan to do tomorrow. Just go dive and then go Thank you. That's really good advice. When I'm out of the water, just go sit down somewhere quiet and meditate, which I truly enjoy doing on a regular basis too. So.
Yeah, like when I did my yoga teacher training in India, like the Dr. Sushil, the guy that was running the course, he was kind of explaining how prana works, how pranayama helps you to control the prana, what you should experience, what you should feel. And some of the things that I've experienced meditating on hallucinogens is almost exactly what he was talking about. So it's kind of like a little taster, of what it could be if you decided to be a real yogi and spend 4 to 8 hours a day meditating and developing that spiritual side of it. It's like a little teaser, cheat code.
Cheat code, nice.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that. That's really interesting because for me, playing around very little, but started playing around, and I definitely want to explore more of this with psilocybin cubensis, magic mushrooms, a supernatural mushroom. It just grows. I started to enjoy the navigation between the highs and the lows. When the vibrations were good, from external influence, let's say, and the highs, I was like, wow, this is nice. And then when it would go down, because somebody maybe that entered the room that I didn't feel had such a good vibe, I would observe how it would go low. And then I'd be able to, at least for a time being, step out of it and be like, okay, well, why is this actually affecting me? Like, is this actually affecting my psyche? Is it actually affecting my body? Am I in danger? No. It's like, why? And to question that, to take a step back, was very interesting on keep navigating back to the high. And I really, really, really enjoyed that, and how it can be applied to the highs and the lows that we get from performances, from competition. Oh, I just got a bunch of red cards. This competition was shit. All right. How are you going to deal with that? Yeah. So, similar for you? Like, it was kind of...
Since that, like I told you, like my first experience was like rough with hallucinogens. Yeah. But since I had that sort of realization, then I've basically never had a bad experience on hallucinogens. It's always been good.
It's always been good. You've been able to, like you said, you've got good mind control, self-control, so you've been able to handle it. Super cool. I find it really fascinating how that experience, self-control, enjoying, taking LSD, psilocybin cubensis, and how that plays into your narcosis and deep freediving is, you might be one of the few people talking about this in the world. How you are going to go, because we know people that have done those depths that you have, and they were not having a good time. And they pushed, and they pushed, and they pushed, and they were not in the same mental state, flow state of mind as you were. We're not going to name names, but we know who we're talking about. And the fact that you're coming up from 140 and you're like, dude, I want to go back down there. That was so fucking good.
Yeah, I was coming up from 140 on a sled.
True.
So already
it might be a little different, yeah.
Having to pull yourself down or swim yourself down or whatever.
Yes.
So obviously I've never been to those depths. I've been like high 90s in the normal disciplines, but for me, I don't experience narcosis at those depths. Even up to 100 in constant weight, I didn't feel any narcosis.
Even up to 100 in constant weight, you didn't experience narcosis. That's amazing.
For me, it's deeper. It's got to be deeper. The visual between maybe like past 105, I've only ever felt it at that depth.
Yeah.
And then I didn't notice too much of a difference in the feeling between 120, 130, 140. It was all like kind of similar.
That's very interesting.
But knowing you've got a free ride all the way up, that's got to help, because there's a lot of things playing into this thing, right? Like I can be 100% confident because I know I'm not going to black out. All I've got to do is hold my breath, go down there, hardly created any CO2, is essentially a static. Okay, mentally it's hard to just stay focused and relaxed in this time, but there's a lot less external factors which could create like some negative thought patterns or stress or something like this. So I can't really compare myself to the deepest consummate guys and the deepest free emerging guys, but
I'm finding this particularly fascinating because I've spoken to many people about this, not many, but a few. And on one hand, we've got this group of, let's say, maybe Europeans that used to live in the Soviet Union, under the Soviet Union. So people that were drinking and doing drugs was like part of like the culture. Doesn't matter. Even in the UK, right?
Yeah.
Europe,
we like to drink.
At a certain age, you like to start drinking and you start doing drugs, and it's totally normal. And then on the other hand, and so these people, they're like, yeah, man, I fucking love it. I'm enjoying it. I want to experiment more with it. I'm not feeling narcosis at the depths that you're mentioning. You are going down 100 meters constant weight and you're not feeling narcosis. That's insane. And then on the other hand of the spectrum, I was speaking to some Asians, specifically Chinese, and I point out that because we know that Chinese, among other Asian groups, lack an enzyme to digest alcohol. That's why they get the Asian flush. And they're telling me, oh man, 50 meters, 60 meters, I get narked. And I'm like, what? I'm like, did you grow up drinking? No, I've never drank. I've never done drugs or anything. I'm like,
Yeah, I'm wondering like how much of that is they feel strange and they just label it narcosis.
okay, maybe, yeah.
Because for me, I don't know. I don't see it. I don't see it as possible.
You don't
like
see it?
50 meters, 60 meters. I don't. Maybe you get distracted. Maybe because I'm definitely on every dive. I'm in an altered state. I could absolutely say that. It's like not my normal state of being for sure. But for me, there's a difference between being in an altered state and being knocked, and it's a very like unmistakable difference.
Right.
You know, it's like clear.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm knocked. So I don't know. I kind of don't believe them.
You don't believe them.
Say you're knocked at 50, I just don't believe it.
No, you can't. Yeah.
Maybe they are, but there's no way for me to ever know. I can't like put myself into their body and experience what they're experiencing. But maybe they're just shit in the pants.
I guess my last question for you, Harry, is your experience, your background and experience in being open at trying all these different substances, psychedelics, and the way that you have developed that self-control of your mind and your body. Do you think it has played a role in having a better tolerance to narcosis? I guess that's as simple of a question as it can be.
Yeah, I would say so.
Straight up, yes.
The lessons that I've learned from tripping definitely
apply.
Yeah.
It's just
specifically this controlling the mind and not letting yourself get lost in thought.
Right.
But I could also, you could say you could learn the same things from meditation, but it's like you don't get punished the same way.
The feedback is not the same. Yes.
It's just like, oh, I'm not focused anymore, and then you just like try and meditate again. But on a trip, if you let the mind go somewhere negative, it's like, fuck, like fasten your seatbelt. You know, it's not going to be a very nice few hours.
Yeah, true. You gotta be dialed in.
Yeah. So it forces you to learn these lessons. Like for me, it's literally the same.
Yeah. And a lot of people can relate to this. How many people have gotten really, really fucking high off of weed, and then they have their parents' cars and they're like driving, they're like, I can't crash this shit. And then they had the munchies, so they go to McDonald's and they're like, I don't want people to know I'm high, so I gotta act normal and order. You know, we've all been there, like where we're just like trying to maybe order McDonald's some food, and we're getting maybe a bit, what's the word I'm looking for? Paranoid, yeah. Mm. You could train it. You could probably,
Yeah, for sure. I say it's like weed is probably the hardest thing to do it on, for me anyway, in my experience.
Okay.
It's much easier to stay in control on mushrooms and acid.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to just keeping the mind focused. My mind's like all over the place on weed. Yeah.
Interesting. Perfect. Yeah. Yeah, when we talk about psychedelics in recovery studies and studies with PTSD, they're usually referring to psilocybin cubensis and LSD and 5-DMT, which is a form of DMT, ayahuasca. Do you know about the Stoned Ape Theory?
Rings a bell, actually.
Yeah. Let's end on that. Because we've been going on and we got to stop. Otherwise, Charlie's going to kill me.
Okay.
I think it's a fun way to end. There's a really good podcast with Joe Rogan and Paul Stamets. Paul Stamets is a world-renowned mycologist, one of the best people about mushrooms. He's written a book that thick on how to grow mushrooms, how to inoculate them. He knows everything. And obviously, he's experimented many a times with psilocybin cubensis, which he truly believes is an incredible, incredible substance given to us by nature. Just like we have cannabinoid receptors in our brain, therefore there's a connection between having nature and the natural environment. There's similar things with psilocybin cubensis and other fungi, which have been around for billions of years. And the deepest irony is also that we outlaw these things when they're actually integrated in our bodies. Anyways, the Stoned Ape Theory, actually it's not even a theory, it's the hypothesis, Stoned Ape hypothesis, because it's not yet proven, tries to explain how the human body, the human brain, a certain part of the human brain evolved so rapidly within a relatively short period of time. We cannot explain that. And there's not enough geologic fossil evidence, paleontological evidence to prove how it happened. So that's why it's just a hypothesis.
Yeah.
Human brain evolved super short period of time. But what we know during that time is that we were bipedal and we were here in northern Africa.
Right.
We're in Egypt right now, but at that time maybe we were in Ethiopia or Sudan. We just came off the trees, we're bipedal.
Yeah.
So we are hunting down animals. Whatever, camels, giraffes, rhinos, elephants. They were around, back then, maybe in different forms, but they were around. And we're hunting them down, and because we're bipedal, we can maybe outwalk them, but we can't outrun them. So we'll injure them, and then we'll have to really cover distances or follow migration patterns, and we really have to get to them, right? Mm-hmm. So what are we doing as we follow them?
Foraging.
Foraging, that's right. We want to get meat. There's not always meat. We're going to get the meat, which will last us for months, but we got to forage. And we're foraging also through the animal's poop.
Yeah, I see.
Because that's the best way to follow an animal, follow the poop.
Yeah.
The tracks and everything. What grows on poop, Harry?
Magic mushrooms.
Magic mushrooms, psilocybin cubensis. So, here we are, over thousands of years, billions of iterations, chasing these animals, ingesting magic mushrooms. Now, PTSD studies are showing that taking psilocybin cubensis can cause two things in people, which is why they're doing all of these tests, especially in the US, for war veterans. It causes people to become courageous and empathetic. I think we can both relate to that. At least I know when I have had magic mushrooms, I am very empathetic. I love to hug, cry, open up, run naked in the woods with my dog, literally. And I think I'm relatively courageous, being naked in public or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've had similar experiences.
Yeah.
Courageous and empathetic.
I can agree.
You're not violent, as you would be on alcohol. Is basically what I'm trying to say.
No.
And courage and empathy are two massive attributes of a good leader. So here we are, ingesting these magic mushrooms, becoming good, courageous, and empathetic leaders. And at the same time, when you take magic mushrooms, you see certain patterns in nature, certain geometric patterns that you otherwise maybe wouldn't see. So we start looking up at the stars as we're tracking these animals, and we start seeing different parts, different, putting together different dots, literally.
Yeah.
And that tries to explain how the human brain evolved in such a short period of time. It's just a hypothesis, but I will find it to be a very interesting hypothesis, the Stoned Ape Theory. Yeah.
Okay, I'll look it up.
Yeah, you should definitely look it up. I think you'll really enjoy it. I love talking about it because maybe it's true, Thanks, buddy.
The Alchemy podcast is supported and sponsored by Alchemy. They are always on the forefront of researching and developing new products. Their latest product, the Alchemy Neckweight, is one I'm a huge fan of, and many other freedivers are also really enjoying its use. So a big shout out to Alchemy, and thank you for supporting this podcast.